Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonya Farrell. This is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the lovely Charlotte Jones, who is from Holdcroft Motor Group. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello, Sonya.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You're from the Holdcroft Motor Group, but what exactly is your role down there?
Okay, so I'll start with what Holdcroft is. So we are a new and used car dealer. So we're one of top 30 multi-franchise dealer groups in the UK.
Okay.
Been running for 60 years, which is really exciting. We cover Staffordshire, Cheshire, Greater Manchester and West Midlands. And my role is to head up the marketing team at Holdcroft Motor Group. So predominantly bringing people into the business, so making sure that people know about Holdcroft, how to access Holdcroft, whether that be from a new and used car sales point of view, or booking a service or an MOT or a diagnostic, anything like that. So my job is primarily to make sure that people know about Holdcroft and bring people into the business, and then we hand over to our lovely sales teams to work their magic and, you know, provide people with a lovely car.
With the magic, a lot going on there, Charlotte. I can imagine it's a very, very busy time at Holdcroft as well. And you've just mentioned there 60 years in business, celebrating this year. I mean, what an achievement, first of all, that is. So one, congrats to everybody at Holdcroft on that. You know, it is a brilliant achievement and started in Stoke-on-Trent. But I'm just going to ask you as well, whether you can touch on a little bit of the history of Holdcroft, but also what do you think has been the key or the secret? Do you remember that song? The key or the secret? The key to Holdcroft actually reaching 60 years and being such a massive success for the area.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a massive milestone for the company. I've only been with the company for I think just over 2.5 years. We've got a lot of staff that have been there 10, 20 years, which is one of the things that attracted me to it, really. They're very, very good at kind of retaining staff and promoting from within, which is fantastic as a business. But yeah, to celebrate 60 years is just phenomenal, and the fact that we're still a family-run business as well. You know, we're not a PLC. We're still very much family-run. And you can kind of feel that within the business, like within the culture of the business. You can kind of feel that kind of like family run culture. People are employed based on their personality as much as their skill set. And we very much like to, we call it grow our own, but we very much like to grow our own and promote from within. And then in terms of why, I think to be honest, a lot has changed with cars, and a lot has changed in the industry with electrification and the market and cost of living, etc. But I think the one thing that's remained is the customer service that we offer. That's very much been unchanged, I would say, from starting. I think Terry started back in 1966 on Leet Road, where we've now got 7, soon to be 8 dealerships. But I think it's his and the wider business's view on how we treat customers and making sure that they're satisfied, you know, and they're happy with their purchases or the services that we provide for them. And that's kind of always been the forefront of everything that we do.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Terry Holdcroft, who started the business, you know, to instill those values from day one. And you've just mentioned there, they are still there now, you know, within the company and everything. Is again an amazing sort of a feat, really, you know, and to do that. And I'm just going to ask you, because one thing though, I just want to go back to you on there, is you mentioned personality sometimes over skill. Which I find quite interesting. So how does that work? Can you just touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a hard and fast rule. But it's just something I've kind of picked up since I've worked there, and it's something I kind of do as well in terms of like cultural fit with the business. So, you know, we've obviously got to get the right person in, the right skill set in. They've obviously got to be able to do the job. But it is also kind of like how they will fit in with the culture and whether they are I don't know what the word is. We kind of say like they're very Holdcroft or they're very not Holdcroft. And it's more about, you know, employing good people that are going to stick around. I think there's a lot of emphasis on people sticking around for a long time, which I think is great, because you do see a lot of in and out of businesses. You know, a lot of people now will hold a job for a couple of years and then kind of move around, which is absolutely fine. But something in Holdcroft which the owners and the directors are kind of big on is you know, keeping people, and you do get that kind of like buy-in, and like emotional buy-in as well. Like, you know, people are really, really passionate about the jobs, which I love. I meet, and because it's quite a big company, I meet sort of people at different sites all the time, and often, you know, they've been around for a long, long time, and it's good to kind of speak to them, and you can kind of see how passionate each kind of like dealer principal or general manager is, and you know, and they'll talk about their time and how that's progressed, which I think is really nice, like how passionate people are about what they actually do. And you know, I myself, like, I come to work without the Sunday night scaries. You know, I enjoy coming to work, and I think that's kind of like across the business. A lot of people are in the same boat. You know, they like coming to work.
Definitely. You know, again, like, it all sounds very interesting, but also amazing as well. And I can imagine it from what you're saying there, from talking to what role you're in within the company. Like you say, it's those shared values, isn't it? And I think, you know, I speak to a lot of businesses who come on Business Spotlight as well. And quite often you do hear sometimes, if you've got those shared values, it might sound obvious, but it is something to hold on to. Yeah, and absolutely. To carry on throughout, like you say, that culture, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a big thing within Holdcroft, definitely.
And then Holdcroft, like you say, started in Stoke-on-Trent. We've mentioned how the business has expanded over the last 60 years across Staffordshire and also Cheshire. But how still would you say is Holdcroft still quite prominent within Stoke-on-Trent, whether it's employing local people, but also now continuing to support the local area and perhaps local people in the next 60 years for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. So very much born and bred in Stoke, very proud of that. There's lots that we kind of do locally. So we partner with Stoke City. So we've been a partner with them this is our second season with them, which is fantastic. We sponsor their fan zone, and we're also due to announce a partnership with Port Vale this year, which is really exciting. And then, we were founded in Stoke, and we've obviously got the dealerships on Leet Road, and we are actually expanding. So we are bringing in a new dealership on Leet Road, which will be our 8th dealership, Cherry. We've already got a Cherry dealership in Crewe, and off the back of that success, very quickly we're expanding. But yeah, definitely kind of Stoke through and through, born and bred kind of vibe within the company, and obviously now we're across Staffordshire, Cheshire, West Midlands and Greater Manchester, but very much kind of like Stoke and our roots. We also do a lot within the local community in terms of like sponsoring like football teams and kind of rugby teams and that kind of thing, and that's, again, that it's quite nice because that is a very much like a people-centered approach. So if someone has their, you know, daughter or their son in a local team, or they want to sponsor them doing something, that's kind of like very much done at that level, which I think is really nice in the sense of, you know, someone can come to work and say, oh, I'm doing this community initiative, or family member is doing this, can we support them? And we do run you know, sponsorships of like local kids sports teams and also charity work as well, and the company are very kind of supportive of that.
And then, you know, like I said, we've talked a lot about locally, but also local employment. Then I'm guessing the majority of the staff, you know, whether it's down at Leek Road, etc., or, you know, the other ones within the area of Stoke-on-Trent, I'm guessing that the majority of those staff members are actually from, you know, the Stoke-on-Trent postcodes. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on our Leek Road sites, we've got a lot of staff that are you know, born and bred Stoke or live in Stoke. I was brought up on Leek Road, so it's, you know, stone's throw away from home. But yeah, we do get a lot of staff that are in that ST postcode, and then local to the other dealerships as well. And we do get a lot of staff moving around as well into different dealerships. So they've perhaps worked in Crewe, worked in Stoke, they might travel over to Northwich. We do get a lot of like kind of moving around within the business too.
And is this sort of different, you know, moving forward as well? Like you say, you know, celebrated 60 years, but moving forward for the next 60 years, sort of enhancing or growing on that local employment and maybe sort of training opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have recently just announced the Holdcroft Academy, which is probably something we've been doing kind of informally for a little while in terms of taking apprentices on from, you know, they can be any age, but normally it is from a young age. Normally it's kind of school or college leaver. And we've done that for a while, and we've seen great success in a lot of our, loads of different roles really, but one that springs to mind is our accounts team. We've got loads of people that started in our accounts team at 16 years old as an apprentice, and then they are now the lead accountant for those brands. We've got a lot of success stories within the business of people that have done that. So our HR team and training team have kind of formalised that now into the Holdcroft Academy. It's launched this year. Applications are still open at this time, closing fairly soon. But that is kind of to formalise that apprenticeship scheme. We're focusing on technicians to begin with. It's a wider industry challenge in terms of getting technicians in, but we're really, really fortunate. We've had, I think, about 500 applications locally, which is fantastic. And how that's going to run is it's not going to be we're not going to have like a college or an academy building, because you know, the idea is that it's learn on the job, and we don't want to put people away in a separate building, because they might as well go to a college or a school to kind of, you know, have that classroom learning. There will be an element of classroom, but it will be in our training rooms, and then most of the time they'll be spent kind of like on the job learning, so they'll get that like real in-person experience, which I think is really good. I think, you know, you can learn so much in a classroom, but getting hands-on and learning as well from people that have done that job a long time, I think could be really beneficial to those coming in. We really like the idea of kind of like growing our own, and instilling those skills, instilling that skill set, but then also that culture and, you know, values from a Holdcroft point of view, you know, straight from a school or college leaver.
No, it sounds really exciting, and again Holdcroft have perhaps brought into Stoke-on-Trent again, and, you know, supporting the local area like they've done for the last 60 years in what they do. But moving on from that, aside from that, then going back to the industry of the motor trade, and you mentioned, you know, earlier about Cherry, which is a new brand. I'll be totally honest, I'm unsure what Cherry is, but you've talked about how earlier at the start of the interview, how the industry can change quite rapidly and quite fast. Again, I mean, how often is it? This might sound like an obvious question to yourself, but how often do these brands keep coming out all the time? I mean, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, no, it definitely feels, I mean, from my point of view, in the last couple of years, we've had a lot of new entrants coming into the market, which is great in the sense of it gives customers more choice. I mean, I'm a little bit overwhelmed with choice sometimes, so that can be a good thing and a bad thing. You know, there's lots of choice there, but then they've got to consider a lot more. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of change with you know, with electrification recently, and then new brands coming into the market, and we kind of have taken on, I think, since I've been here, 4 new brands in just 2 years, and that is 4 new brands and then multiple dealerships as well. So we one of the relatively new of the new no, not new of the new, old of the new that we've brought in is Amoda and JQ. So we launched our Amoda and JQ showroom in Northwich, and then we had such good success off the back of that. We then launched another dealership in Stoke, right under our head office. So we developed our head office. So we had a valet bay underneath where all of our head office staff work, and transformed that to a Amoda and JQ showroom, because the demand in Northwich was great. It was absolutely took off. And then since then we've launched Cherry, which is again is relatively the new brand, the umbrella brand of Amoda and JQ. And then we have more recently launched Geely, which is a umbrella company or part of the same company as brands that you'll know, like Volvo, for example. So yeah, and we're bringing in Cherry to Leap Road as well, which I think I mentioned.
Yeah, like you say, I mean, for you in the industry as well. But before you go, Charlotte, I'm just going to ask, you know, as a consumer as well, you know, somebody to come in and looking for a car, and again having all this choice, like you said, sometimes you can, but is there a sort of a way of helping a consumer to choose? Is it easy enough to just go online and you can find certain information there? Or is it coming into a showroom, say the whole traditional way, still coming into a showroom, having a look around, having a feel and having a touch? How do you see that and how it's changed?
It's definitely changed a lot in terms of customers kind of researching what they want. I think previously when we were less online, people would walk in, we call it a walk into a showroom, and not make an inquiry online or call beforehand. Whereas now we're kind of seeing the journey is still similar in terms of we do get a lot of people that will come into the showroom and talk to sales staff directly, but they've done a lot of research. So I think it's something like 19 hours I think it's something like 19 hours research that a customer typically does now before they buy a new or used car. So often when they walk into a showroom, they've done their research, they're kind of like armed with their stats and facts. But I do think there is definitely that element of like coming in and like you said, seeing it, touching it, feeling it, understanding if that's for you. I had a friend this week that's purchased a car from us, came in on one model and then straight away went, no, it's not big enough, I'll have that one instead. And there is that element of like in-person buy-in. And I think for us, one kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a myth, but one kind of thing that I will stress is that whilst we do have sales teams, they are there to sell you a car, they are also interested in you becoming a repeat customer. So it's not a case of being over. I think there's this kind of perception that salespeople are kind of overly salesy and they just want to get you sold, and it's like in and out, and that's very much not the case in our dealerships. We want people to come in, we want them to feel comfortable that they can ask any questions that they want. We want them to feel comfortable in their decision that they've made the right purchase for them. And sometimes they'll come in of doing all this research and then actually get to, sit in the car or take the car for a test drive, or even just sit with a salesperson for half an hour and kind of ask different questions. And then they'll help them navigate, well, does this work for you? And someone might say, I've got twins, or I've got two golden retrievers, or something like that, that they need a certain type of car, or they're a lengthy commuter or whatever it might be. And it's understanding, I guess, from a sales point of view, it's understanding what that customer needs. So what their lifestyle is, how they go about their day to day, and understanding what their needs are, and then kind of guiding them towards the right vehicle for them. So I think in terms of change, it's definitely changed in terms of a more online journey versus in person, but there is definitely still that element of in person. It's just our customers have done a lot more research before they come in, so they often know the stats and the facts, and I guess it's just that kind of like having that final person to talk to and kind of say, you've got that, have you considered this and this, and then hopefully they'll go away with the dream car.
You can't beat the human touch in a way, can you, Charlotte? Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on Business Spotlight. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. That's Charlotte Jones from Holdcroft Motor Group here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonya Farrell.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.